This list contains all chancellors of the Federal Republic of Germany, which was de facto up to 1990 West Germany and since then, reunited Germany. From 1949, when the Federal Republic was founded, Germany has had only 8 chancellors. In this video, all of them are being ranked from worst to best. Best and worst are both a combination of the quality of their decisions, the importance of their decisions and the political background of their decisions. So let us start now.
Ludwig Erhard, 1963 to 1966. He was from 1966 to 1967, de facto chairman and before that affiliated with the CDU. To date it is known that Erhard was never even a member of the party, officially. You must clearly distinguish between his great era as Minister for Economic Affairs and his successless chancellorship. As a minister, he is known for leading the West German post-war economic recovery, economic miracle. During that period he promoted the concept of the social market economy, on which Germany's economic policy in the 21st century continues to be based. The 1960s were a golden decade for Germany, especially Germany had also a strong demographic growth. But in his tenure as Chancellor, however, Erhard had no success. The reasons for Erhard's missing support by the CDU is probable that they stemmed from Erhard's general skepticism about party politics. Erhard lacked support from Adenauer, who remained chairman of the party until 1966. Erhard failed to win the public's confidence in his handling of a budget deficit and his direction of foreign policy. His popularity waned, and he resigned his chancellorship. He might be an interesting chancellor for party policy haters, but Germany is a country in which policy is strongly dominated by parties.
Angela Merkel, 2005 up to present. She served as leader of the Christian Democratic Union, CDU, from 2000 to 2018. Merkel entered politics in the wake of the revolutions of 1989. She was the leader of the opposition from 2002 to 2005. Merkel was appointed to succeed Gerhard Schröder as Chancellor. In her first period in power, she continued the program of modernization of the welfare state, including an upset of the age of retirement. But this was the only point of modernization for the next 16 years. Despite that, Germany prospered also economic, but Merkel's successor will have to handle the huge backlog of problems concerning an aging and inflexible society. After their first period in power, Merkel took several doubtful decisions, starting to phase out nuclear power in Germany. The EU decision to reduce fuel-based cars in the EU market will bring also heavy problems for Germany's main industry, the automobile industry, in the future. In the 2010s, migrant crisis and the COVID-19 pandemic in Germany have been the major issues during her chancellorship. In 2015 she opened Germany's borders. She defended her decision with the argument, young migrants will help to stabilize the welfare state in an aging society. But she did not remember that only well-skilled people can help for stabilization. This decision of 2015 may become a precedent for decisions of her successors in later decades when the population in the Orient and Sub-Saharan Africa will quadruple. In foreign policy, Merkel has emphasized international cooperation, both in the context of the European Union and NATO, and strengthening transatlantic economic relations.
Helmut Schmidt, 1974 to 1982. He was a member, but never the chairman, of the Social Democratic Party of Germany, SPD. In today's Germany, he is the chancellor with the best reputation, but in this list, he is just number 6. Why it is so? Schmidt has really an excellent personal reputation for his extraordinary charisma and his excellent public speeches. But during his chancellorship no really important event has happened. None decision of Schmidt was so important, that it had effects over decades. As chancellor, he focused on international affairs, seeking political unification of Europe in partnership with the United States and issuing proposals that led to the NATO double-track decision in 1979 to deploy U.S. Pershing II missiles to Europe. He was the leading force in creating the European monetary system in 1979. In economic affairs, he stabilized West Germany after some faults of his processor brand. He is our most beloved Chancellor. We hated to give him just number 6? Because his era was of lower importance. Number 6 is unfair to him and a certain provocation because he could not have done anything better.
Kurt-Georg Kiesinger, 1966–1969. He was chairman of the Christian Democratic Union from 1967 to 1971. Kiesinger was considered an outstanding orator and mediator, and was dubbed Silver Tongue. Kiesinger is an underrated chancellor in Germany's today's public opinion, with nearby the fewest reputation. He became chancellor by forming a grand coalition with the Social Democratic Party. During this era, Germany successfully passed a first economic crisis. The Grand Coalition pushed important Keynesian economic laws forward, stabilized Staatsgesetz, and widened Germany's constitution for cases of national disasters. Kiesinger was the first chancellor who broke up Hallstein's doctrine, starting relationships with some Eastern European countries. But the idea to start negotiations even with East Germany could not become realized cause of resistance within his own party. But his successor, Social Democratic Brandt, followed this path. All in all, Kiesinger's era is a very little bit more successful than Schmidt's era. We are sorry, Helmut.
Gerhard Schröder, 1998–2005. He was a member and chairman from 1999 to 2004 of the Social Democratic Party of Germany, SPD. He grew up in Germany's poorest working class. This is why he showed sometimes a tragic instinct for luxury goods. After decades of constructing a more and more voluminous welfare state, Social Democratic Schröder changed the direction, reducing the welfare state, especially the public insurance in case of unemployment. He implanted the Hartz IV reform, which gave unemployed people after 1 year only a basic income. His most important political initiative was Agenda 2010. In his foreign policy, he was the first chancellor who weakened the alliance with the USA. Although Germany was a part of the Kosovo War in 1999, he denied any support during the Gulf War in 2003. He tried to get close relationships with Russia.
Willy Brandt, 1969–1974. He was the leader of the Social Democratic Party of Germany, SPD, from 1964 to 1987. He was the first Social Democrat chancellor since 1930. As chancellor, he maintained West Germany's close alignment with the United States and focused on strengthening European integration in Western Europe, while launching the new policy of Ostpolitik aimed at improving relations with Eastern Europe. Brandt was controversial on both the right wing, for his Ostpolitik, and the left wing, for his support of American policies. He was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1971. In interior policies, he widened the welfare state hugely. This was one of several reasons why the birth rate collapsed during his chancellorship. Brandt was known for his fine sense of humor and as a symbol for the possibility of a political career for children of the working class. Helmut Kohl, 1982–1998. He was the chairman of the conservative CDU for a quarter of a century from 1973 to 1998. As chancellor, Kohl followed in 1982 the Social Democratic SPD, which had widened the welfare state huge in the 13 years before. All in all, you must say that Kohl did not do very much to stabilize the welfare state and to revitalize Germany's economy in the next 16 years. He also did not attempt to raise Germany's very low birth rate. But the Kohl's strength was international affairs. Kohl was committed to European integration. He was also a steadfast ally of the United States. Following the revolutions of 1989, his government acted decisively, culminating in the German reunification in 1990. Kohl was able to find the right measure to articulate Germany's wish for reunification to the Allies of World War II. His plan of 10 steps for unification widened the discussion between the Allies. Kohl was able to reduce fears about a unified Germany in Western and Eastern Europe, by accepting the borders of 1945 finally and accepting the plan for the euro, which embedded Germany's economy closer to Europe. So, Kohl and French President François Mitterrand were the architects of the Maastricht Treaty, which established the European Union, EU, and the euro currency in the 1990s. In small circles, Kohl was fascinating and a perfect host. The larger the crowd, the vaguer, weaker and paler he appeared. In general, he was no great orator, his speeches were lengthy and verbose.
Konrad Adenauer, 1949–1963, served from 1946 to 1966 as the first leader of the Christian Democratic Union, CDU, which he co-founded, which under his leadership became the dominant force in the country. He had a vision of market-based liberal democracy and anti-communism. Adenauer was deeply committed to a Western-oriented foreign policy and restoring the position of West Germany on the world stage. He led his country from the ruins of World War II to becoming a productive and prosperous nation that forged close relations with the Allies. He preferred to have the closest relation to France, while other members of his government preferred the United States for this position. Adenauer was a driving force in re-establishing national military forces, the Bundeswehr, in West Germany in 1955. Adenauer opposed recognition of the rival German Democratic Republic or the Oder-Neisse Line. He worked to restore the West German economy together with his Minister of Economics, Ludwig Erhard. During his years in power, West Germany achieved stability and economic prosperity. At this time also Germany's birth rate was high enough to grow the number of the population. This situation made it possible to modernize Germany's retirement system. Adenauer, who resigned as Chancellor at age 87 and remained head of the governing CDU until his retirement at 90. Born in 1876, he was the last policymaker who started his career in the German Empire before World War I. And also his personal attitude as a combination of a lawyer, a major of Cologne and a hobby inventor was unique.
Conclusion. Adenauer is clearly number 1. But the ranks from number 2 to number 6 are very close to each other. In the future, Germany will need very successful leaders to avoid economic stagnation and decline by the aging of its society. It would be so much better if Helmut Schmidt would reign nowadays, but not in the stabilized 1970s.